Hello everyone, so time to unveil my latest Lego train creation or Lego locomotive creation. Here it is. It is a Class 09 or Gronk, and it's a very particular Class 09. It's the one which is at the National Railway Museum in York, and it's the one that I pass quite often getting the regular commuter train I catch from York up to Newcastle. I'll insert some photographs here and I catch glimpses of it parked outside or mid-shunting duties outside the National Railway Museum. And I fancied making a Gronk because they're lovely chunky little diesel shunters, and if I was going to make one I thought I'd make the one that I see when I'm going up to Newcastle on the train. So here it is. It is my design, but it's greatly influenced by other members of the Lego UK Railway group that I'm part of, who previously made Class 8s, Class 9s and so forth. Joe Bloomfield, Paul Robinson and John Reynolds, thank you very much for sharing your models as well. They helped me quite a lot in figuring this thing out. It's changed quite a bit since its inception, so I'm going to finish this little intro by playing some footage of it I recorded at the Yorkshire Brick Show recently, where it managed to pull a whole 17 tankers plus a brake van at the end, none of which I think had any bearings on, so that's quite good considering it's only got a Lego powered up large motor in it. Quite chuffed with that. But it's had quite a few engineering tweaks as I've gone along. So something that I have done is I've made a kind of series of videos as I was making it, trying to understand how it evolved, share how I go about making things. So I'm going to stick those on at the very end of this video so you can have a watch of those, and you can see how it evolved. The way I went about making this particular loco is I often start by experimenting with getting the drivetrain to work. Can I get it to go around a Lego track reasonably smoothly? Can it go around R40 curves, that kind of thing? So I spent quite a bit of time on that. At the same time, I was looking for source material, apart from photographs, other photographs online, even shots of, or photographs and images of other models of this, not even Lego models, models made to be 00 scale or other model railway scales. Getting images of those, making drawings as well, trying to work out the proportions using sketching. I do some of that. And it's only then that I start playing around with stuff in a digital design package like Studio or Stud.io, Studio, whatever it's called. And even then, as you'll see in the video, I tend to go backwards and forwards between a real model and what I make in Studio. So although I had a fairly well resolved model of this in Studio, there were things that I needed to tweak in the final model, because as soon as you start to build it, you start to spot weaknesses. Anyway, you'll see all that if you stick around after the footage of it going around the track. But for now, I shall say goodbye. Hello, so here I am working on the next project, first attempt at getting the engineering bit right of a class 08 or class 09 diesel shunter, or Gronk as they are better known. So I've just had receipt of the rather nice set of wheels and cranks from Brecklin Bricks, superb stuff there. And what I really wanted to do was to make sure that I had these outside frame of the class 08 working. So I've used these Technic pieces. Now I can't, as I would like to have done, had 3 across here, because it would have made the spacing between the wheels too big for this coupling rod here. But nevertheless, I'm quite happy to keep it a bit smaller, because it means that it gets a reasonable scale, it doesn't get too big, it won't look too out of place along with the other 7 wide stuff that I've been making. But having put it together, I can see that it doesn't work quite as smoothly as I would have liked. So I'll run it and show you what's happening here. If I can get it to work. Or maybe I can't. And I think part of the problem is actually a little bit of extra play between the coupling rods and the wheels, because you've got these little tiny crankshafts here attaching to the axle. You've got a bit of extra play here and a bit of extra play there and there, which means that it's not enough just to have the coupling rods to keep the wheels together. So I'm going to have to investigate driving actually all 3 axles and see if that solves it. So what I ended up doing, I'll just stop this, is rather than trying to power all 3 axles, I power the front and the back, and the middle wheels are just on free running axles, so they'll just follow what the front and the back ones are doing. And the problem has been really all these points of friction, because using the outside frames, or trying to create the outside frames using these Technic pieces, means that not only is there some friction with the Technic brick there, but there's also some friction on the outside frames, and then you've also got friction between the little crankshafts and the outside frames, and all these little things seem to be adding up. So getting it really nice and loose and fiddling around seems to have done the trick. In order to get 3 of these Technic pieces in though, I've had to space the wheels out a bit more, which does mean that the original coupling rods are too small. So I've just lashed together some other ones for now, and I'll need to order some more. The other reason I'll need to order some more is I was so enthusiastic when I was playing around with this that I actually, managed to snap one. So that's no good. I'm going to have to be a lot more careful with the actual ones when I get them the right size. So what I might do actually is keep these on as long as possible, and then when I'm happy with the final loco, I'll put the proper 3D printed ones from Brecklin Bricks on. Okay, so I seem to have sorted out the power. What I might do actually is see if I can't put a bigger powered up motor on the back. See if I can't put either a large one or even an extra large one, but I'm not sure I will have enough width if I put an extra large one on. So I'll just put it on its back and you can see things running. That's full speed. And that's not bad. That's pretty good. Obviously there's no weight on that, but it's not bad. That I can live with. So I've been fiddling around a bit more. I thought, I know, I'll just swap the medium powered up motor for a large one, and that necessitated a complete rethink of how to mount it, because I couldn't get it low enough down on here, which meant rather than taking the power from the middle, I now take the power at the end via a chain drive and get it down that way. But given all the friction in this, it's probably just as well, because the higher torque of the large motor means it stands a good chance of going at a reasonable speed, even if it is a class 9 that I'm building. It's a little bit faster. Anyway, here goes. Helps if you get it on the track, of course. There we go. Of course, it's got absolutely no weight on it yet because it's just the bare bones, but that's looking pretty good. Okay, so a little bit of strengthening work I've been doing inside. I did here have these little 2x1 brackets, but there's enough space to put larger ones in there, which also means I can strengthen across here as well. I've also got a bit more going across here, which will then tie in with when I put the kind of side skirts back on, will tie in into here and make it a bit stronger. What's really nice about having the Technic bricks at the top is that you can do a half stud offset by, instead of putting it on the stud, putting it on the little pin between them, which means it's easier to build 7 wide. So a bit more strengthening gone on. So here I am, just got the first round of building using Bricklink parts, and as usual found 1 or 2 things I need to fix, or I've already fixed. So first of all, I realised that this entire front section wasn't attached to anything further back from there, so it was just loose. So I've had to modify that by making that a 2x3 brick instead of a 1x3 brick. I've also noticed that this section here is only held on by a couple of 1 stud wide plates going across the whole thing, so I might strengthen that just to make it a bit more robust. Obviously this needs some extra parts yet, but it will fit in on there. Need a good firm connection because with the cable as it is, the cable wants to push it up, so I'll have to make sure that that's good and solid. And then originally I had this door handle 1 plate that way, which meant it wasn't quite centered over this ladder. Although actually, having said that, when on the model I made in Bricklink Studio, the ladder was a whole 1 stud that way, which meant it didn't really line up with the door. So a quick bit of modifications and now it lines up, although it is right at the back. So back to work with a few tweaks and then we're almost there. And one more thing, I noticed that inside here, this bit's which I've just built by default out of red bricks and grey, light bluish grey plates, you can see through the window. So I'm going to swap this all out for black so it kind of disappears when the roof's on. So well done if you've watched all those making of videos. There's one more thing to mention. You probably noticed when I was talking about the making of this that the power from the large motor went down to the bottom using a chain drive. Well, I've had to change that. I ran it with a chain drive at one show, and then when it was pulling quite a large load, I could hear it skipping. So what I had to do was change that to a series of cogs going underneath. You can see the bottom one there poking out. So it's geared down one of the smaller cogs to one of these slightly larger cogs here. And that's to fix it. Although when I first did it, I had a cog which was just held on with a single pin and cross axle here, which kept popping out. So I've had to build up inside a layer of black bricks just to hold it into place. But then it's done. That's the end of it. It seems to be working reasonably well. So there we go. 1 NRM Gronk. Thank you very much for watching.